Okay. So today I wanted to talk about the benefits of networking. You likely know what they are, but we'll talk through them. We'll also talk about strategies for networking and how to build your professional communities. I think you're all so well positioned now because you are engaged in an internship and meeting with professionals and in a professional workplace that hopefully is broadening your professional network now and you're building your community. But we can talk about how to augment that. And finally, how to use networking skills now and in the future in your research, in your work, in your in the clinical space and beyond. So, question for you: what do you think of when you first hear the word networking? And anyone can chime in.
I think of like making connections with people in a similar field or field of interest and connections that may lead to collaboration in whatever sense, whether it's research or business, so on. People who
Sure.
introduce you to other people as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Connections, yes, is definitely a great word and definitely how I have thought about networking in the past. Emma, I saw you on mute too.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like conferences and other events where you get an opportunity to connect with folks from different career stages and industries.
Yeah, absolutely. So Um, some of the PhD students I work with and some postdocs have had negative feelings about networking and may feel that it's can be superficial, but I think it really is much more what you have described, Kelly and Emma, that it is a professional connection that you can identify, collaborate with, work with, down the road. And I really feel like it's a two-way street. I don't, believe that it is, just one person asking another person for something. I think it's really mutually beneficial. Um, what are some benefits if, we do think it's beneficial? What are some benefits, both in general and to you specifically, of networking? How would you benefit from networking today?
I think getting to meet with people and learn, like people that are in roles that you may want to do, like kind of getting to know their path, or like even getting mentorship if folks are willing to provide mentorship, or just getting connections on knowing like how to find your way through to your goal.
Yes, yes, definitely. Other benefits? Other benefits to you personally or generally?
I think similarly to Jen, just like being in an earlier stage of the career, being able to learn from others and even maybe be exposed to things that you hadn't thought of before, maybe different paths. So I think it's just an opportunity to really learn from others.
Yes, yes, definitely. And finally, what are some challenges with networking? What challenges have you encountered with networking?
Not knowing what to say.
Yes, yes. That's a good one, Bethany, and pretty common. So, Jen?
I think along those same lines, like kind of like intimidation, or not feeling like when you said it was like a two-way street, it is a two-way street, but not feeling like I have a lot to offer, because I'm still in my early stages. And so it feels a little bit like I'm just asking instead of like, here, I have something to offer as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Jen, that's quite common. And I will say, with some of the PhDs I've worked with, they have shared uh, times when they have felt that they were able to give back. And in those ways, they were able to maybe share uh, contact information of, a friend or, a peer PhD who's looking for work. If, you're talking to an employer and they're trying to fill a position that you're not suited for, but you know someone, that has certainly happened. Also, as a professional, as you are, you might have come across an article that you might share with someone that you met at a conference. You know, you might refer them to a resource that you've learned about in the digital mental health space, you know, that they may not be aware of. So you do have things to contribute, you know, for sure. And Bethany, we'll talk about how to approach people further on. So thank you for those. So why is it important to build a community when you're thinking about career and professional development? You all have answered this question really, that it is important for you to broaden your network, to think, you know, about other opportunities beyond your internship, beyond your PhD programs, and trying to think about possibly identifying mentors or sponsors, people who can support you through your career and help you to achieve your career goals. So in career development and career design, really, it's a process that we encourage students to move through, and that begins with research on yourself, who you are, what your personal values are in relation to work, what you're interested in. You all have been able to articulate that, so I think you're really far along. So, you know, you may be exploring different career paths now and connecting with people. But today, in particular, we'll talk about community. So that second stage of, okay, now I know, you know, I'd like to do part-time clinical work, or I'd like to explore industry careers, you know, in the digital mental health space. And you know, I'm not sure whether I want to do research or work in innovation or data, or, you know, with a mental health company, physical health tech company. So thinking through all of those decisions, that is, you know, part of what networking can help you with. You know, meeting with people. And I think, Eridan, you said this, talking with people, you'll come to know more about organizations and roles, and come to a better, you know, place where you feel more confident in making a decision about what you might like to do next. So so some benefits you've already mentioned, but the ability to research careers and sectors, you certainly can do that through networking. Learning about organizational structures and culture, we have not talked much about, but you certainly can do this. I have been, in some ways, by virtue of my role, have been contacted by lots of PhDs in the past who have asked about my work, how I got into this field, but also the organizational structure of the university. So what is it like to work in the academic sector? What's the culture like? What's the culture like at specific universities and specific organizations? So that is information you can glean from networking with people. You can cultivate mentorship. Jen talked about this, but you can definitely start to identify and approach people to serve as mentors. You can learn about which skills are most valued by employers in a particular space. So thinking about where you might have a gap and trying to fill that gap, you know, now while you're in training. And I think likely you all are building some of these valued skills this summer, right? In your internships. And then expanding your community to find out about jobs and other internship opportunities. So with some of the ways in which we can network, some of the strategies that I'll show you today, you can start to expand your community so that you'll be connected with people who might be sharing those opportunities. So who's in your natural network? Connections can come from a wide range of areas in your personal and professional lives. So where are some places where you can meet people? Who's in your natural network right now? And you can just jump in and share.
Alums from our programs.
Absolutely. Alumni. Yes.
People we've worked with at previous institutions.
Yep. People you've worked with at previous institutions. Others?
Maybe
And
people we're working with now who aren't like on our immediate teams, like just casting a wide net where we are now.
yes, and that's really smart. I would definitely take advantage of any opportunities you have in your internship to attend staff meetings, go to connect with people, work on collaborations, and try to identify as many people as you can in your current role. Any others? So I'll share some with you, but definitely people who are at your organization now, at Kooth or Timely Care, Moxie's, other places that you're working, um, your professors, advisors, mentors from anywhere, any aspect of your life and work, but also from your undergrad. So I think Christina opened us with alumni, but your alumni network also includes your undergrad, right? So thinking about that, family and friends, for sure. I was once working with a PhD who was interested in working in New York, in consulting, and I didn't have a contact at the organization where she wanted to work, but my uncle did. And so remembering your extended family, that they may have contacts, with people, volunteer work, community involvement. Believe it or not, I have also had some PhDs tell me they have met contacts at dog parks. So you never know, you might meet with with someone, a professional at the vet. I have two sons, Charles, who just graduated from American, and Henry, who is 16. And when Henry was younger, I met at one of the birthday parties I went to, an executive from a biotech company in Boston, where I was working at the time, and I was working with a postdoc who wanted to get into that company. So you never know, right? Also, I will say, we haven't talked much about conferences, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but your professional associations and professional societies. So like the Society for Digital Mental Health, there are lots of organizations that you may belong to, the APA, obviously, in a different capacity, but keeping in touch with people, volunteering through professional associations, and we'll talk about other ways that you can connect through professional associations. But really, everywhere you look, you might be able to identify someone and meet with someone. I, believe it or not, actually met my husband on a plane. So our seats were assigned right next to one another, and that's a true story. So I struck up a conversation with him and started networking with him, and we were both at U of M at the time. So we kept in touch, and here we are. I think it's 29 years later. So so anyway, you never know, in terms of networking, who you might meet. So where can you network? We've talked about alumni networks, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Professional organizations for sure, conferences, in-person and virtual networking, specific events, and then LinkedIn. So I want to, I'll bounce over to LinkedIn right now, but wanted to show you on LinkedIn, each of your universities. So Pitt and UVM and Stanford and PAU and American, USC, they all have their own LinkedIn page. So I'll show you as we go to one. Here, I'll just stop sharing for a minute and bounce over to LinkedIn. Okay. Can you all see LinkedIn here? Okay. If you search in LinkedIn for your university name, just click on it, and there you'll find the university's LinkedIn page. From there, there's a tab called Alumni. And if you go to that tab, you'll see how many alumni are currently using LinkedIn. So at American, it's 122,046. Okay. The way that you can use this then is to use the keyword search for any keywords that you might like to search on. You can look for clinical psych, you can look for mental health, and then just start to read through, what are people doing now? Where are they working? And it's, it might be interesting for you to read about someone's practice, or, if they're at a particular organization, where is that organization? Is it near somewhere you might like to work? And start reaching out to people that way, because you have an automatic connection based on your alma mater, right? So I would encourage you to do this for your undergrad and for your grad institution. So start to identify people who are in fields of interest and maybe at organizations of interest. So for example, if we were to go to, let's say UVA's page and look at the alumni there, we can look up, you can look up any organization, but and I'm not sure because Kuth, and some of the organizations you're at are quite small. You may have to be looking a little bit larger, but just because I was just working with a PhD who was interested in Pfizer, you can start to identify people who are at those organizations and look at and see what kind of work they're doing, and try to connect with them. So in terms of connections, you can create, let's see, I'll go to someone's page here. You can connect directly. I would always encourage you to add a note when you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, just to introduce yourself and express an interest in their work. In general, to respond to Bethany's earlier question about, how do you even approach people? With all networking, and this involves or includes being at meetings, being at conferences, being in a staff meeting at work, being in your cohort in your program, or meeting other faculty in your program. When you first approach people, if you express an interest in their work, that really opens up the conversation. And so that's how I would encourage you to approach people on LinkedIn and otherwise, but just to introduce yourself briefly, hello, my name is Annie Graham and I'm currently a PhD and, this kind of thing. I'm interested in your work, and would love to set up a time to hear more about your career path. So that's what you're doing. You're expressing an interest in them and their path. So once you do that, what you want to do is ultimately try to connect with them live on Zoom. And people have these conversations all day long, every day. So really, as you do at parties, at family functions, oh, where are you working now? Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about it. That's the kind of work that you want to do when you start to network with people, because eventually the conversation will get back around to you. Oh, well, tell me, Annie, what are you studying and what would you like to do next? And that's how you build those relationships. So that's really the key to networking, is just relationship building. So wanted to show you that you can use LinkedIn that way. We also talked briefly about groups. And so if you look up mental health, there are lots of, people, jobs, but there are also groups in mental health that you might consider joining on LinkedIn. So reading about the different groups, mental health and private practice, marketing and management, AI workplace, mental health forum, the Global Mental Health Support Network, I think some of you might have even mentioned. So really reading through what these are, this group is for those who are interested in personal development, self-help and wellness, and mental health professionals, and everyone interested in this topic are welcome. Some groups are very specific and will say, our group is devoted to networking for mental health professionals. So, so look at that, do some keyword searches, think about joining groups, because once you join groups, you can actually start to see their postings. So you also will become connected to all of the people within the group. So then you'll have another point of connection. So you'll have another thing in common with the people who are in your group. So that's another way that you can use LinkedIn. From LinkedIn to societies, I wanted to show you the Society for Digital Mental Health. Bethany is so involved in SDMH, but wanted to share with you, if you identify organizations that are related to an occupation or a profession, there are a lot of different ways you can connect with people in those organizations. So one is through events. Many organizations now, professional associations have, can you all see the SDMH site? Okay. Many organizations now are having not only annual conferences, but webinars, quite frequently on different topics of interest. So I've been going to several webinars this year on, from my professional association, and just been able to not only learn, but even connect with people during the webinar. So I've been able to chat some people privately during webinars and connect with them and collaborate with them at different universities. So those kinds of interactions happen all the time as well. So that's one way that you can work with a professional association. Another way is to read about the people who are connected to a board of directors. So here, if you look at the executive board of STMH, you can read about what people are doing and where they work. So, working at Impactful Capital or being a principal in digital health policy. There's someone else that you'll recognize who's the conferences and events committee chair. So Bethany is part of the executive board, but if you were interested in Optum Care, for example, could you get in touch with Soo-Jung Yun? Sure, you might reach out to Bethany for an introduction. If you ever find a connection in any way, I encourage you to try to reach out to those people. But some professionals who are on the executive boards or boards of directors for professional associations, they'll include their personal emails even on the website, or their LinkedIn pages. So you can read more about their career path before you contact them. But this is a nice group of people to approach, and a fairly easy group of people to approach, because all of these professionals have full-time jobs, so they're volunteers for SDMH, right? So Bethany is the professor and a professor and director of clinical training in the Department of Psychology at UVA, but she's also working with SDMH. And so it's the job, it is really all of the board of directors members, they are charged with growing the profession. So they're sort of an easy group for you to approach as a young professional, right? As an emerging professional, it's a nice group of people for you to approach to start to or continue to build your network. So that's another way that you can connect with professional associations. And then the third way is to, you can certainly join, but specifically I was thinking of joining committees. So if there is, and you know better how the APA is organized than I do, but joining a committee with a professional association will help you to meet with other people who are invested in digital mental health, who might be working in mental health tech, and it will really be a nice way for you to give back to the community and to continue to grow your network. So just wanted to share those ideas with you. Let me go back to my slides. Okay. So a lot of different ways you can use LinkedIn, but I would encourage you to start to reach out to people in that way. So some tips for networking. If you are more introverted, please know that your observational skills are so valuable, and your ability, and I know you're all trained in clinical psych and have been working in a therapeutic space, you know how to listen effectively, right? So you have the ability to connect with people on a personal level, professional level, and that will serve you in trying to build your professional network. So if you are more introverted, it's also nice to start in the digital space, right? So to start on LinkedIn, to start by reaching out to people. People reach out to me all the time asking about my role and my job. And I'm happy to talk to people on Zoom. Of course, I always say yes because it is my job, but I am happy to talk about how I got into the field. And that kind of interaction, like I said earlier, it happens all the time. So don't hesitate to contact people because people are so generous with their time. I have found, and so with the PhDs I've worked with over time, they have said, the only time when they feel frustrated is when they just don't hear back, but they never hear any negative response like, who are you, and why are you contacting me? That doesn't happen. It's more, yes, I'd be happy to talk. I'm busy for the next few weeks, but then I can talk after that, or what works best for you. That's the kind of interaction that usually happens on LinkedIn. So consider quality over quantity. So with being intentional about who you start to connect with, I think you all are making great contacts at your internships. And I would say you could build upon that. You can ask for more introductions, if you're interested in that space. Take advantage of online networking platforms. We talked about LinkedIn, but we did not talk about meetup.com. So just by a show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of meetup.com? Okay.
Heard of it, never been.
So it's really great, Bethany, because, and it sounds like a dating app. I actually think it was started as a dating app, but now it really is meant to bring people together of similar interests. And now they have a tab on meetup.com that is called Career and Professional. So they have career and professional meetup groups online, and you can indicate your interest in a particular sector, and you can connect with people online that way. The way I use it, and this also I think was one of the original intentions, was to meet up with people who have similar interests. I have used it to go hiking, actually. It's very easy to find hiking groups on meetup.com. I have found knitting groups. I've found, people who are dog owners, like a lot of different ways to meet new people, but specifically they have a career and professional tab where you can start to dig in and do some research and start to meet people that way too. Find opportunities and events that align with your interests and goals. This you can do at work. You can do this through your campus. You can do this through your professional association. And then informational interviews are a great way to make connections. So just wanted to ask quickly, how many of you have been through an informational interview? Okay, Eridan and Kelly. Okay. Okay. So what are informational interviews? Essentially gathering career information from people who are already working in occupations of interest. So, or organizations or geographic locations of interest. It really is an interview for information. So it is not a job interview. And it may feel difficult in the way that I was trying to encourage you earlier to connect with people on LinkedIn leading up to a potential Zoom meeting. It may feel difficult at first, but it gets easier with each one you have. So the process for informational interviewing is essentially identifying people to reach out to, sending an introductory email, which we talked about. So expressing an interest in their work, and asking if they have 20 to 30 minutes to meet on Zoom, and suggest a few dates and times. I've had recently talk with a few professionals in Washington, D.C. who have said, yes, please ask your students to name some times, because if they just ask me, can we meet sometime, it's harder for me. So suggest some specific times. Prepare questions to discuss, and we'll talk about that, and have the interview and then follow up with a thank you. So letting the person know that you appreciate their time and follow up to keep the connection going. So what kinds of questions then might you ask in an informational interview? You might ask about preparation. So how did they get into the field? I'm often asked this question about career counseling for PhDs. What experiences prepared me for this work? You can ask about their present job. So really tell me about a typical day, or is there such a thing? What are the different kinds of tasks that you're involved with during the day? And with whom do you interact typically? Who are the stakeholders in this organization? Things like that. Job search. So what advice do they have for you if you're looking to enter the field? What might they suggest? So tips for you, advice about some, if you're interested in a particular path, ask them about what was hard. Ask them too about what they don't like about their current job or the organization that they're currently with, because it's nice in an informational interview that you have the space to talk about pretty much anything. You can even ask about average starting salaries. So not about their salary, but what's an average starting salary in this space? Or at Timely Care, what typically, do people what's the range, that people start in? Because this isn't a job interview, you can ask questions like that. But ask about what they find challenging. You can also ask about where the field is going, right? So ask about what they see on the horizon. And finally, I would always end with, do you have any other recommendations for people I should talk to? So you really want to close each conversation that way so that you'll be receiving other referrals. So definitely there are a lot of different kinds of questions you can ask. And after we get off the Zoom today, I'll send a list of sample questions to Bethany that she can share with all of you. Just to give you a start. You'll have your own questions too that are tailored for the person you're talking to, but just to give you a sense of where to start. So questions for you. Who has participated in an informational interview? You responded, Eridan and Kelly. What did you learn from the experience? And feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I actually realized I had one this morning.
Oh.
But I'll talk about the one that I did that was more related to others. So I actually connected, it was actually a part of a class assignment that I had for a user experience research class I had taken last semester, where we were kind of tasked with connecting with a user experience researcher on LinkedIn and asking for an informational interview. So I connected with a clinical psychologist who actually went that route, and so I felt that was very relevant for me. I learned a lot about her path, and I asked her kind of some of the questions that you mentioned there and the challenges. Biggest takeaway I learned was that people are actually really open to connecting. I was really surprised to hear back from so many UX researchers who are really busy, but really open to give their time to, especially a student. Our professor was saying that it's important to take advantage of networking when you are a student because it seems like people are more willing to give you their time if you're like earlier on in your career. But yeah, I learned a lot about kind of like that, like academia to industry pathway.
That's great. Thank you, Eridan.
All right, and for my informational interview, I guess I, when first hearing the term, I wasn't sure exactly if I've done one or not. I guess I haven't done one like formally where I'd call it that, but I've had several instances in which I've reached out to people over email or LinkedIn and have met with them over Zoom to talk about their careers, express my interest broadly and also in their field of work. And typically when I've done this, it's been like centered around an opportunity or about a like experience or position that I would like to ask them about, and if they'd be interested in hiring me or working with me or something like that. And in these times when I've done that, I've felt like it's has so far gone well, which is nice, and has also, I think, like similar to what Eridan was saying, like has also opened me up to just realizing like how open people are with talking with students, and with hearing like the excitement that was coming from me about this type of work. I think really opened them up to like wanting to share more and stuff. And I feel like each conversation has been so friendly too, which I think has been helpful in like other settings where I've seen this person where we can just like chat and catch up as like friends, it almost feels, and like you know, referencing things from this call or interview too. So yeah, I've again, not sure if I've had like a formal informational interview, but this experience sort of sounds like experiences of my own.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kelly. I think it definitely sounds like you've been able to meet with people and talk with people about their roles, and that absolutely, I agree with you. People are so happy to talk, you know, if they have the time. And so let me ask you and Eridan, what advice would you have for someone who is hesitant to reach out and have that kind of conversation with someone?
I think my main piece of advice is, well, one, just reach out, like just do it. And two, I mean, the worst that they can say is no, right?
Mhm.
The worst thing that can happen is they say no, or they meet with you and they're not really interested, or they're kind of, I don't know, standoffish. And maybe that's more telling to you that you might not want to work with them, or more telling about, you know, their line of work, something.
Yes. Yeah, that may speak volumes, right? Yeah. So, Eridan?
Yeah, I think beyond what you've already shared, I think that offering the times was really useful for me as well. I feel like I heard back from people more often if I like gave them some windows of time. But I also would recommend, like Kelly said, just like reaching out, like what's the worst thing that can happen? Maybe also casting a little bit of a wider net, like reaching out to multiple people that might be in positions of interest to you, just in case you don't hear back from everyone. And I think it's just valuable being able to have multiple conversations as well.
Yes, definitely. Um, and thank you for sharing that. So in terms of next steps, because we're coming up to the hour, just wanted to encourage you to start to identify organizations of interest, and then start reaching out to people. You know, as Kelly and Eridan mentioned, it's just people are so generous and gracious with their time and willing to talk, especially to emerging professionals. And I will say, yeah, I mean, all the time, we in my professional association right now, we are starting to reach out to federal employees who have been laid off, and offering free career counseling. And, you know, we're starting to hear from people who have, you know, 10, 20, 25 years of experience, and we're connecting with them with others in, different professions. So, so definitely worth contacting professionals for informational interviews. And it doesn't even have to be as formal as that, to Kelly's anecdote. You may just express an interest in their work, and, I wonder if we can connect on Zoom at some point. I'd love to hear more about your career path. Mine LinkedIn for alumni and additional contacts in your network. We talked about this. We talked about different ways to use LinkedIn. Stay active in your professional association. This really helped me, well, it has always helped me, but especially when I was an emerging professional early on in my career. I attended conferences, I attended webinars, I tried to meet people, I emailed people and had some one-on-one meetings with professionals in my field, just to learn more. And it was really helpful to volunteer on committees and stay in touch with what was happening in the profession, and then help me move on. It is still helping me today. We now are all working on collecting PhD career outcomes across the country. We're starting to look at patterns and trying to compare notes in terms of where are PhDs and clinical psych going. And, we're looking at different software platforms to do this. And we all share notes. We all are talking to each other all the time. So, and then connect with me on LinkedIn. So if you can send me an invitation, that'd be great. I am happy to introduce you to anyone I'm connected with. If you ever see someone in my network that you'd like to meet, just tell me, and I'll introduce you personally. My personal email is also on my LinkedIn profile, so you can reach me that way as well. So, so does anyone have any other final parting questions about networking?
I know we're at 12:30. Just a huge thank you, Melanie. This was really fantastic. I've just sent you a LinkedIn invite to connect. So I figured no time like the present.
Good.
Yeah, super, super helpful. And yeah, really appreciate. There's a bunch of things that I had never thought of in your presentation. So that's fantastic to hear. So
Good, good. I'm glad. And I'd love to stay in touch with all of you. I'm excited about your careers, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of your internship.
fantastic. Great to see everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Bethany. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.